Because I remember there was this one guy who was super, super nice and had a crush on me.
It's
But
always the
then,
nice ones.
It's
yeah, it's
always
always
the
the nice
nice
ones.
ones.
I broke that son's heart.
Oh
I'm so
no.
sorry.
Oh
If
no.
son, if you bump
If
into
you're
this,
watching,
she's
if you're
sorry.
I'm
She
watching
said
this,
sorry. I'm
sorry.
oh
sorry.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You is me is you.
Means you.
You is me is you.
Do you know,
Because
I found that babes who suffer from father wounds more or less have same
the same thing.
tendencies.
Same tendency.
Same
Same
tendencies.
tendencies.
Like
Yeah.
this.
Like Anna.
I feel like an unhealthy way I used to deal with my shit was I never used to staying at home. And like on a paper. I chuck, I go to my friends and I didn't even tell my mom. I live like a normal person. Unajua au kijana narudi.
Hi, spellers. Welcome yet again to the Spelling Life podcast, where we change mentalities one episode at a time. I trust you all are doing well. It has been a minute, a long minute, but we are back with the final, second last episode of season 3. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about something quite sensitive. Hence why hata nimekaa chini tu hivi ndio nikae tu chini. So today we're going to be talking about childhood trauma. And I'm going to give a small, brief explanation before I can introduce the guests I'm joined with on set today. So, childhood trauma refers to unfortunate experiences that occur during an individual's formative years, which is 0 to 6 years, and have the potential to cause lasting emotional and psychological effects. These experiences are often overwhelming, distressing, or harmful and can include various forms of abuse, neglect, or witnessing traumatic events. Childhood trauma can have a profound impact on a person's mental, emotional, and physical well being, influencing their psychological development, interpersonal relationships, and overall mental health throughout their life. It is important to note that the effects of childhood trauma can vary widely and have individuals who can respond to these experiences in different ways. That being said, I am giving a disclaimer to anyone who might be watching this episode that might get triggered toward the conversation or feel some certain type of way. Feel free to reach out for help and most especially talk to someone about it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest today from Ladies First. Hi, Zoe.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself?
So I'm Priscilla Zoe. I am turning 21 soon, thankfully. Yay.
Go you.
Also a psychology student. I'm currently pursuing a BA in psychology, and I'm happy to be here.
So happy to have you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Chris.
Habari zenu.
Zoe
Habari zenu
Sana.
tena.
Zoe Sana.
So my name is Chris, as you've heard. I am a student, but a full-time fancied friend. I'm a med student, by the way. So
Explain fancied friend.
fancied friend.
Yeah.
Or fancied friend is a term we use from Fancied Story Network. So yeah, join us, by the way. I'm sure we'll leave the link mahali hapo chini.
That's great.
So yeah.
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 So happy to have you guys. So I have given a brief explanation on what childhood trauma is so that the audience is able to follow up with a conversation. So my first question is a little bit kind of easy, but do you think trauma has the potential of manifesting physically?
Ooh, deep. Man, tushaingia hapo ndani.
Tunazama tu puli.
Huh. Physically.
Yeah, like physically.
Like, does that also cover like psychological?
Like, the context of the question was because I remember when I was in high school, class 8 to like form 2, I'd get really sick, like unbelievably sick. And they'd run tests, they do medical analysis of what's going on, but they'd never be anything. So fast forward to like 2 years later, and a doctor says all this is a manifestation of things happening inside. So I wasn't like sick, but my trauma needed an outlet. So hence why I asked the question.
Actually, yeah. Yeah. You gave me an example. What came to my mind is there's a time where, because a disclaimer rather is I was raised in an abusive home. So there was a time when I was in high school, and high school was my first time being away from home, being away from my mom. So it was boarding school. And then I wasn't that comfortable being away from home because I felt like one day I'll get a call that my mom is gone. So I was constantly living on the edge out of fear because I used to be the one who would separate my parents when they had like arguments, like really, really bad arguments. So I remember there was a time I got so sick, and I would try in a way make myself sick in a way
So that
psychologically,
you can go home.
so that I can go home and check on my mom and see everything is okay and that she's alive. Or if the nurse doesn't believe me too much, I can call my mom. At least
And say you're sick.
yeah. They'd call me. I mean, they'd allow me to call my mom, and then I check up on her. I hear she's okay. Then at least it gives me some relief. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So yes.
For me, I feel like it definitely does manifest physically.
Yeah.
If you look at it from an angle where you have trauma, yeah, childhood trauma, for example, and you overeat, you become fat. You know, people overeat to like reduce
Like cope.
stress, cope
Yeah.
with stress. You know, so yeah, I feel like it definitely does manifest physically. Physically can also mean things like migraines and headaches and such stuff. Yeah, I feel like it definitely does manifest physically.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. All right, on to the next one. Do you think that trauma has a connection to post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's
Yes.
okay. It's okay.
Definitely yes. Because the instances, I guess I'll just be speaking out of experience.
That's a loud hand. It's okay.
Because I feel like I resonate best with experience. The instances where, like, because thankfully my parents got a divorce eventually, and my father moved out of the house. So the very first year after he moved out, when something breaks or falls, I get scared. Because it would either be he would throw a bottle or throw a plate, and it was very violent. So whenever something would like break in the house, I'm like,
You like go into a moment of panic.
Yeah.
With your mind.
yeah. And then like even for my parents to reach the point of divorce, it was a very bad process because my father was not very receptive towards that whole thing. So he caused like a commotion back in our house. And when someone would even knock on the gate, you feel like, oh my God, is he back? Is he coming to kill us? He's probably back. So like, yeah, especially when you go through a very violent childhood where you see it's like every day is a day that could be your last day. Especially after those cases you see on news like the Paul Magu case, where like a father kills his entire family and then kills himself. You're like, wow, that could be me.
The possibility.
Anytime. So it's hard.
I'm so
And
sorry.
it's okay.
I'm really sorry.
But thankfully you overcome over time. But definitely PTSD is a real thing, especially if you've gone through a traumatic
childhood.
Yeah.
All right. Chris?
Could you go over the question one more time?
The question was, do you think there's any connection between trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder?
Okay. So I feel like it's definitely in the name as well.
Yeah.
I want to speak also from experience,
Okay.
personally.
All right.
I feel like my form of PTSD is being hypervigilant. Yeah. In a way, unaona ukiwa mdogo like huwezi kaa chini ka hujafanya kitu. You know, like you have to be doing something in the household. Mamako amekupata, ameingia, anakupata kwa simu, you're like, like you physically
You're
just
always on the run.
you're always ready to do something, you know. So I feel like being hypervigilant, is a form of PTSD I went through because I was always it's in my mindset. My mom, when she comes in, she must find me doing something.
Yeah.
Amele ya wageni wakikam, the house is messy. Mlikuwa mna chill. Acha kwanza tuingie kwa room. Or your dad, when he comes home, mnatoka mnamwekea news kwanza, mnaingia kwa room. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think it's related.
All right. So just for audience understanding, PTSD is a disorder characterized by failure to recover after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. This condition may last months or years, with triggers that can bring back memories of the trauma, accompanied by intense emotional and physical reactions. So the next question I was meant to ask, I feel like we've all dived into it. But the question was only if you're comfortable sharing. Have you experienced childhood trauma before? And if yes, feel free to share. So I feel like you've let us in on your share of trauma.
Yeah.
So have I gone through? I mean, obviously, yeah, but let me see which one I am comfortable talking about. So I have this abnormal darkness fear. Like I cannot sleep in a dark room. Like you all have to wait for me to sleep, then turn off the lights. If I wake up in the middle of the night and those lights are on, are off, I will turn them on, and I can't, I'd even rather sleep with my torch on. But simply because as a child, one of my parents used to punish my punishment. I was like a little someone. I was very short. So the socket is like Kukudru. So I used to be locked into a room that's dark up until, and so I'd keep on scratching the door and being like, I'm sorry, up until they feel like the satisfaction of my apology is fine by them. That's when they'd let me out of the room. And I'm like, what, 3, 4? So Mimi, up to date, I'm just like darkness. And I cannot, I cannot deal with darkness. Even when steam up waters, I take up to 5 or 10 minutes to come back to the feeling of you're safe. Like, you're okay, calm down. So that's, I think, a trauma I'm comfortable sharing for now. Yeah. Chris?
A trauma I'm comfortable sharing for now. That's big. Sitaki kuangusha kitu heavy hapa. Tuletewe tissues. But I think I'm going to start off on a light note. I used to be terrified about the rain nikiwa mdogo. Yeah, because sijui kama nakumbuka zile movies za Naijo, where in the rain is where everything witchy is happening. Some witchcraft shit is usually... Can I cuss?
It's a conversation.
So yeah, witchcraft just happens in the rain and everything. So at night when you're going to sleep and then I hear the rain, I'm usually like, wow, okay, it's raining. Let me stay awake. Kidogo mvua ipite, alafu, and just wait and see if everything is okay. So yeah, I feel like that's definitely some form of PTSD.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think... Okay, first off, I even forgot. I know Zoe because I remember, when was this? This was 2021, 2022. I was in the pits. Last year, proper pits. Then I remember my mom shared your interview on the Googie's show. And I remember I sat there and I was like, oh, the strength to be able to every time I see people become so vulnerable with their stories and the impact it would leave on someone else's heart, I'm just I was like, girl, I was like, wow. I was like, the strength to actually just let us in on the kind of life you went through. For me, that was crazy. I remember, I don't even think you remember, I DM'd and I was like, my goodness, don't stop keeping that story. Don't stop sharing that story. Because I remember it took me from a very weird place. And I remember when I was thinking about making this episode, I was like, it just rang in my head. I was like, Zoe. I gotta reach out to Zoe because I remember just how impactful, and I knew you would be comfortable with sharing your story, even in depth because you've already done it before. Because some of us are still trying to figure out the strength to talk about the things we've gone through. But I just wanted to say I am so thankful that you are able to share your story.
Thank you.
Also, before you continue, I feel like it's something we need to talk about. you don't need to necessarily go through what Zoe went through
Yeah.
to have childhood trauma.
Conversation,
That's
yeah,
Like,
true.
you might have grown up in the happiest home, like you have both parents, you know,
Yeah.
the marriage is okay, but somehow, some way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you'll still get it and
Like
you'll
childhood
uncover
trauma.
it when
Way
you,
before,
That's
yeah,
when you grow
later.
up. Yeah.
That's true. So, how do you think that you have experienced long-term effects of the childhood trauma you went through?
Wow. So I'll just speak about like the most recent things.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen it in how I relate with people
Mm-hmm.
and in my relationships or talking stages. Yeah.
Is allowed.
Yeah. So before, I think, so like at some point in 2020, 2021, I was in a point where I was just like, I don't want to be in a relationship. If I want kids, I'll go through artificial insemination. I'll be the Jane the Virgin of Kenya. I'm not going to not going to get entangled with men. Then at some point I realized, because I started building like a wall where I was so mean and cold and just don't come near me.
Like protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in a way, there was a time where I had this mentality which is sad, and thankfully I've grown out of it, but all men would be like my father. Because looking back at it, a father is meant to be the first example of what a husband should be, or what
Love
a man should be.
Yeah.
And with that example that he put out, I was scared of interacting with men. And in a way, even when I got into talking stages, I reached a point where I was bleeding on people that did not cut me. So it's like I'm putting my unhealed trauma, my unhealed self on someone and expecting them to take me as I am. And I'm not even trying to work on myself. This is me.
Like a comfortable.
Yeah, I'm comfortable in my pain. I'm comfortable in my heart. And yeah, like it wasn't the best version of me.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it took my friends being very raw and telling me, Priscilla, honestly, yeah, like not all men are like your dad, or will be like your dad, and they're actually good men out there. And I thank my mom and my friends for like even showing me examples and having given me room to interact with actual good men who have changed that notion
in your head.
in my head.
Like rewired it.
Yeah. So like having to even get good male friends, interacting with my friends' dads, like just being able to even have father figures in multiple sectors of my life has been impactful in so many ways. Yeah.
Interesting. Chris?
First of all, I think for me, I would want to look at why is it long term, and I look at it from a point of view where, okay, I recently started doing inner child work, so
Oof, that's a lot. The
It's-
things
it's-
you find inside that, you're
it's
just
a
like,
lot.
It's
the
please,
ghetto.
Kisha Gary.
It's the ghetto.
Eh.
But somewhere I read the reason why it's long term, it's because you're either trying to prove your inner child wrong. You see, for example, like in her case, to prove her inner child wrong, she'll date men like her father in hopes that she'll change them.
Exactly.
And in
Why
that,
are you shouting?
in that snowballing effect, it's gonna be like a whole other thing where it just comes and this and that and this and that. So it becomes long term
Yeah.
there then. For me personally, feel like how I dealt with the rain thing. I'm not very proud of this, by the way, but I used to suck my thumb. No, not my thumb, my index finger. My right index finger to sleep at night when it's raining. Yeah, ndo nikisikia mvua, I'm pale na nyonya kidole. So I feel like that's how I dealt with it until I became comfortable sleeping. At this season nikisikia mvua, I'm good, I'm easy, I'm sleeping nicely. Another some way I'd say I've dealt with some long term shit is I used to have constant arguments with my mom when I was small, and I never really knew how to resolve conflict because you're arguing with an African parent. What do you expect? They're always
Well,
right.
yeah.
Apparently,
Well,
they're always right. So I'm still dealing with that. I'm still working on that, but I feel I'd say that's a long term effect of my
for
childhood
you.
trauma. Yeah.
We minaanza wapi? Disclaimer, Mimi, I think I started like really intentional therapy this year. And we like go back to the basement. I partner with a box.
Ooh.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, how
Imetoka
is
wapi?
this here? I work again in my basement. There's another box.
Yeah.
I work again in that. Oh my God. But one of like my biggest traumas that I think I've been unpacking this year that I'm not dive deep into because of personal reasons is I was doing this program. I did this program in February. It was called EZA. So after you're done with the program, you have the option of going back
It's an
as a
online thing.
facilitator. Not really. My auntie and uncle ran the
Okay.
entire thing. So I
Oh.
went back as a facilitator. And I think there was so much difference in how I looked at the program as someone taking it and someone teaching it.
Yeah.
So in the teaching, because I have to like go back and read notes and write things, I discovered things. I'm just like, wow. Kwani
Yeah.
nili freelance class? Because me personally, I don't remember going
Having
through all those
this,
things.
yeah, definitely.
So the uncovering of how much father wound traumas I have was like, wah. Tebushkisha gari kidogo. Because I think before I was just like, I mean, he left and whatever. I don't care. I don't, whatever. It's fine. It was his choice. But now, unpacking things and realizing that it really affects even like my attachment style. So one of like a long term effect
Yeah.
traumas had on me, especially like father wounds, is that me, I'm always waiting for people to leave. Like you cannot convince me.
So you're
like
avoidant.
no, I'm an
Anxious.
anxious attacher. So I attach with the
okay.
thought of that you're going to abandon, like you're gonna leave at some point.
Ooh.
So I always have like a set ultimatum in my head. When someone crosses it, I'm like,
Yeah.
Mbono jaenda, like why are you still here? So like I'm always getting into relationship, friendships, or even connections with humans, always expecting for them to leave.
leave.
So that even if they leave, I would feel
Yeah.
bad about it because I'm trying to shield myself from the fear, from like the pain of losing people. Because I've literally watched him go.
Yeah.
So me, I'm like, if this is someone who's given themselves to give rise to me and they've
Yeah.
left, how are you convincing me some random human being I just met and like is going to stay?
But you know, the curse of anxious is you'll always meet with avoidant people. Like, that's the unfortunate curse.
That's so true. That's so true.
You'll always
That's
meet with
so
them.
true. Like you're always
Yeah.
gonna meet people who make your head ache. Like Mimi
Yeah,
Kwanza, I think
definitely.
it's something I'm learning. Like I'm learning that people are not obligated to prioritize me the way I prioritize them.
definitely, yeah.
Like
That's
it's
true.
fine. Like if I hold you at 63 and you want to hold me at 15, ni sawa tu. Like before that, Mimi, I used to take avoidance as room to try more. Like if you're telling me I don't want to be here, me I'll give you reasons
You'll try to change
want to
them.
be there.
You'll try to change them.
So it was like a whole turmoil. But like one of the biggest long-term effects of trauma I have is I think in how I relate with humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could I just add something?
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people that I've interacted with who probably have gone through a similar trauma that I have is that they have this Jesus mentality where
Fixers, saviors.
where we really want to
Bob
save
the Builder.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brother
what the
Builder.
builders.
Yeah.
It's not funny, guys. I may be saying it as a joke, but I promise it's not funny. It's not funny.
Yeah, where we just want to fix the fathers that left us in other people,
Yeah.
basically, which is, it's kind of sad. And there's this thing that I don't know if you guys listen to Benjamin Zulu. He's a lawyer and psychologist, and he has his own YouTube channel. And he's like, he talks about relationships and all that. But there's one quote he said that really stood out for me, and it kind of made me realize the importance of fathers in a child's upbringing. So he was talking about this in the context of a girl. So a girl tends to marry a man like her father, a man opposite of her father, or a man
Yeah.
she expected her father to be. And I
Well,
was like,
We're all looking for daddies.
yeah,
Well,
we're all looking for our daddies.
or something entirely different. Like it has,
Exactly.
and if it was a bad if it was a bad experience with your dad,
Dad.
it's like I will never,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to do it.
But funny enough, even when you have that bad experience of a father, it's like you subconsciously attract a man who's
your
like him
father.
for some weird reason whatsoever. But
It's a curse. It's a curse.
It's a lot. A lot is what it is.
But I feel like the same way we're talking about fathers who abandon us.
yeah,
We have single mothers in the house, so
yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like father wounds behave the same as mother wounds.
It
Like it was
Yeah.
so funny how I have the most okay, well, it's been worked on, but I have the most beautiful relationship with my mom. But taking this program made me realize I have unresolved mother wounds. I'm just
with your
like,
mom, yeah.
guy, sasa hizi zimetoka where? I was like, but I thought me and my mama, it's like, where's it? Like, they work the same way, but I think it's because fathers are such a core thing in how girls look at themselves, in how
Yeah.
girls believe in themselves. So more often than not, I feel like girls who struggle with father wound traumas also look for validation from the men
In their lives.
in their lives. Like, it's, if you don't validate me, if you don't constantly repeat that I look
Yeah.
good or whatnot, it's like there's
Something.
just
Question mark.
something you're not giving
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. That's actually really crazy. How do you think you have experienced the effects of trauma on your mental and emotional health over time?
Over a time.
Over time. Because I think the effects are gradual. Like you never realize one. Like it all hits you at one time and you're like, wow, I need help. Yeah.
I feel like I would start emotionally. For me, like I said, I used to have, I still have, working on them, conflict resolution issues. And it stemmed from me with my mom, I'd say. Yeah. So I feel like over time, I used to react differently. It began with me punching walls, then went to me screaming, then went to me now walking, taking a walk, listening to music. So yeah, gradually it becomes better if you do want it to. If you work on yourself, it does become better. Mentally, for a long time, I wasn't able to stand up for myself because I was like, if you're arguing, you're the right one. I'm always on the wrong side because that's how it is
It's
with
Yeah.
my mom.
yeah.
That stems now, that becomes people pleasing now because you want them to always be the right person. You don't want to engage yourself in conflict because you won't come the other side as the winner, and that's something else. There's never a winner in an argument or in a conversation.
It's different perspectives.
It's different perspectives, yeah.
understandings.
So yeah, I feel like that's something it affected me mentally because now I started like people pleasing vibaya sana. Like,
Just
you're
to
arguing
keep
with
the
me?
peace.
Sawa basi.
Yeah.
Sawa. I'll just do what you're saying. I'll forget about me. I won't do
So
anything.
peace over everything, as long
Yeah.
as there's peace.
As long as there's
Yeah.
peace, I'm good.
Yeah.
Even if it's bothering me, mi niko sawa manze. So yeah, I feel like that's how it affected me over time. Yeah.
Miss Zoe.
How could you like repeat the question?
So it's how do you think you have experienced the effects of trauma on your mental and emotional health?
Well, I feel like it's wow. For me it's different. Like there are days I can be in a good mood and everything is great, and then one thing just triggers me and my entire day is ruined. And I feel like crying, and I'm this type of person. If I want to cry, I'll cry, and I'll cry a lot. So I'd probably just go to my room and then cry to my roommate and just just
Process,
bawl.
yeah.
And process everything. And then like I overthink a lot of things.
Girl, you miss same, girl.
Yeah. Because of group. Yeah. Like I feel like I overthink everything.
Even things you don't need to.
Exactly. Everything. And now I start thinking about, oh my God, this person, I did this to this person. What did they think? Oh my God. And then it hits me at that time where I'm remembering what happened in the past, what I did 10 minutes ago, what I did last week. It just comes
all
together.
together. Yeah.
In one huge moment. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? So therapy helped with that at some point because thankfully in my school we have free therapy sessions. So you just go to the counseling center and book a session. So therapy did come in handy, and having reliable friends, honestly. I think for me, my friend group has been my pillar. And also my mom.
That's nice.
But my friend group have stood with me in the worst of days. So that I'm very grateful for them in so many ways, because I can call them anytime and they'll always come through.
there.
Like
Yeah.
I can fall and I know they're gonna pick me up. Like I'm
Definitely.
assured of that. So yeah, like I just cry a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Well, I think I agree with you as well. I feel like the effects of trauma on the emotional and mental, especially because I feel like childhood trauma is funny in it being that you do not realize the
It
effects till
happened.
you're way
Yeah.
older. So by the time you have to unpack, you're unpacking years worth of trauma. Like, how do you unpack 10 years worth of trauma? And I'm like, where do I even start?
I feel like a nice way I started dealing with that is I categorize my life into seasons. Like sign ko season 21. Because 21 years of living, so season 21. Episode 1 ilikuwa January. So like when I want to unpack something, I'm like, episode 1 ni nini ilifanyika? Or when I'm having a relationship thing happening, ujamani, episode 16.
Na yake imeisha.
Yes, yake ishaisha. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
But it was like, it's a lot. It's like sasa tunaanza where, like, what am I supposed to do? And I think for me, one of like the most greatest effects of trauma I had as, let me say, growing up, was that I just chose to be like the victim so that I never have to do it. So everyone, it was like, I don't know if you guys understand how victim mentality works. It's like everyone is coming to attack you. Everyone is out to get you.
To get you, yeah.
So it even makes dealing with you so difficult because I think when you get to a point where you're so comfortable with the trauma that you don't want to do anything about it, it's because I was telling my therapist, how are you telling me to drop something I've been carrying for 10 years? Like, who am I going to, I don't know who that is going to be without my baggage. Like, it's like you've owned the baggage and it defines you. So you're telling me I need to drop this. So now I need to start getting acquitted to a me that does not have trauma. And who is that? And half times when trauma becomes like something you own, it gives you reason to not get out of the comfort zone. So now you can't make excuses. You just can't make excuses, and now you have to like actually put work to, intentional moves to like move forward and whatnot. But now I feel like for me, between the mental and the emotional was not as hard as the mental. The mental was crazy because it was victim mentality. That was I think when you subconsciously have an anxious attachment style, you don't deal well with abandonment. So me, when someone leaves, in as much as I'm saying, oh, I don't feel bad, I'm in the gutters, I am crying, I am weeping, I just don't understand why they have to leave. And more or less than not, I'm always begging them to stay. Like, I'm just like beg. Like, every time that happens, I go back to that 6-year-old girl that was begging for him to stay. Like, I'm like, please don't go, please don't leave me. Who am I going to be without you? Like, I just subconsciously become that 6-year-old girl that was begging my dad to stay. So now, how I've been unlearning these things is I have learned to separate my present self from my child. Like, I constantly remind my child, I'm sorry, I know we went through this and I know it really sucked a good one, but we cannot continue to live presently off the lens of what happened to us. So me separating myself from that 6-year-old child and me as a grown-up right now has really helped me now. Even when I'm triggered, I take time to think. I'm like, is this my adult self or is this my child
Child
self?
self.
Like, what
Yeah.
is triggered? That way, I'm able to go back and understand how to deal with it. So if it's my 6-year-old self that's triggered, I'm not going to talk about it to the person because I'm like, this is a me
Yes.
baggage.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
if it's my present self that has been triggered, at least I'm able to now. I don't know if you know how triggers make you act impulsively.
Irrational.
Like you don't
Arakatu.
think. So way later you're like, but hey, what was I saying and what was I doing? So just learning to sit down and be like, okay, nini imetusumbua has really helped me kind of like navigate my emotional and mental effects of trauma.
Effects, yeah.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Nasikia machozi.
You, that's deep.
I just like gangster, sis. Gangster. We got a gangster.
There's something I saw juicy. It was saying your mental health is like a car. Relating it to inner child and present you now. The way you're saying you detach you, your 6-souled you from your you now. So whoever is in charge of the driving, like whoever's on the driver's seat, should be emotionally stable enough to guide the
drive.
other. So like if you leave your emotional child, you'll find yourself, begging, oh, please stay, do this, do that. If I leave my emotional child, that I'll be fuming when I'm conflicting with people.
Yeah.
I'll be crying. I'll
Yeah.
be, doing all that shit, So, yeah, definitely. Your mental health is like a car. So you should be in control, but also don't like push away your mental health. Talk up unafanya nini hapo.
So it's like letting the sane person drive. Let your inner child sit on the passenger seat,
Yeah.
and you
And
guys
you
have
drive.
a collective good ride to where you're
Exactly.
going.
Yeah.
That's such a good way to look
Yeah,
at
that's
it.
a nice way.
Hey, me, this one I don't know if I want to answer, but oh well. In what ways do you think trauma impacts a person's interpersonal relationships? I think I've talked.
Yeah.
It's your turn, guys.
Interpersonal
Relationships, being with
romantic.
your family,
Oh.
with your friends, as in anywhere where one
Anywhere.
or more human beings are involved.
Wow.
Yeah.
So me, I recently discovered I have an anxious attachment style. I always thought I was secure, by the way, because nikiacha I wasn't really,
Like you
haikuwa
hadn't
inanisumbua
thought about
sana.
it.
Haikuwa inanisumbua sana.
Yeah.
But I feel like I recently discovered I have an anxious attachment style. And watu husema your attachment style manifests from when you're a kid.
Yeah. True. Very true.
And I was like, how? Because people usually say people with anxious or avoidant attachment styles are people who their parents either weren't there or they weren't consistently there for anxious now. So I regressed back kiasi and I realized, by the way, my mom, my dad, they weren't always there. They were, at work. They were doing all that. So yeah, I realized that is making me currently have an anxious attachment style. But I'd say mine manifests differently because I'm secure with my friends, some of them. I'm anxious when
With
it
some,
comes to
yeah.
some relationships, and I'm secure when it comes to others. So yeah, on attachment styles, I feel like that's how my trauma definitely affected my interpersonal relationships. Also communication. Yeah, in relationships you need to have communication. I suck at that. I used to. I'm working on it. I used to suck on that. And that's definitely how it affected my interpersonal
I feel like
relationships.
it's what you've said. I feel like however we relate with people or however we feel with people is how they speak to our inner child.
Exactly.
Like if you trigger my
Yeah.
inner child,
Yeah.
high chances is my adult self will be like,
You.
I don't want it. I don't want any of it. I don't want either of it.
Yeah.
Miss Zoe,
Well.
do you feel like you got to a point where okay, because I know dad wounds can either go this way or this way. This way being that you completely cannot stand men. Like you're just like, please me, I don't want any of it. And this way in being that everything you are kind of now becomes, you start feeling that dad void with guys.
Guys, yeah.
So it's either this way or this way. There's never
An
in
in-between.
between.
I
It goes
experienced
this way or
both.
this way. Oh, really?
Yeah. Because after there was a time where I was like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have relationships with men.
Men are
ever.
scums.
Yeah, men are dogs.
Men are
but
trash.
they're not trash. They're not trash. I used to say that. But
Yeah.
I am saved, guys. So,
Amen, sister.
there was a time where I just couldn't stand men. And so even with like guy friends, it was kind of hard for me to even open up with them and have that like interaction just as friends.
Yeah.
Then, and actually it really affected my relationships, because I remember there was this one guy who was super, super nice and had a crush on me.
It's always the
Then-
nice ones.
It's
Yeah,
always
it's
the nice ones.
I broke that son's heart.
Oh
I'm
no!
so sorry.
If you bump
If
into
you're watching-
this, she's sorry.
if you're
She
watching
said
this-
sorry.
I'm
Oh
sorry.
no.
But he was a really amazing person. But I did reach out to him and told him, like
Yeah, did they tell me you were just battling your demons?
I was not okay.
Yeah.
I was not okay. But there was a time I just couldn't stand men. Then there was another time where after some therapy sessions, inconsistent therapy sessions, I now felt like, ooh, I'm ready for a relationship.
Yeah. Oh, get me a
cute.
man.
No.
Guys,
Yeah.
I'm back in the market.
Umeshakaoga na ukarudi
Yeah,
soko.
Mogo karudi.
I'm taking you by storm.
Come on. Yebo.
Anywho, I ended up, number one, attracting somebody who had the similar traits to
Yeah, I know.
the toxic dad.
That's your point. There's your point shining.
I feel like
Yeah.
all of us who went, first of all, can just appreciate all of us went through some form of therapy.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Very essential.
And when you are done with therapy, you're like, Manze, me, I'm healed. I'm ready to go out there. I'm so focused, And then there's just that one person on a pit and whatever.
And I could shock.
Yeah?
No, I saw this tweet. Was it a tweet or was it a quote one time? And it said that, are you fully healed? Or have you just not been in situations that
Why?
trigger
Your
you?
trauma and
Yeah.
everything, yeah.
Wow. I like that question. Yeah. So, I got into a very interesting relationship that showed me a lot of things, and character development was the
shaky.
topic. The main
Yeah.
topic. And so like, in that relationship, I kind of resonate with what you said. I wanted the person to stay. I wanted to do everything and anything possible for this relationship to work. And it kind of even took me back to, it was just not even what I observed from my dad, but also what I observed from my mom.
Ooh.
Because
Comes in the mom.
putting up, like the amount of stuff she put
the
up with.
toleration, you had to suck in a lot of crap just because
Your man.
They're your
you're
parents.
married or for your partner. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't even, it will sound bad saying it, but you didn't have your own standards. Now, I realized I didn't have standards of my own. I didn't have my non-negotiables set out. At least I don't find myself in a situation where I'm being used inappropriately.
Yeah.
And like now getting to that realization of like, what? Kumbe, I've even observed a couple of things from my mom, and I wasn't even like noticing. All this time I was thinking, dad is the issue. Dad. But then, even though I wouldn't want to admit it, also my mom had a part to play in a couple of these things. So now I was like, wow. And I took up these things too. So even in that relationship, it was a relationship. It only lasted like 3 weeks. But anywho, even in that relationship, I was just like, wow. Wow. Introspection kicked in. But in terms of my other interpersonal relationships, just even lashing out at people, getting triggered and like avoiding people. Yeah, it did take a toll.
At all.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like there's such a thin line between being in love and being codependent.
Hey.
Mimi washanini wabi.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was the girl in love and that I love this man and that I'll take this man for couples therapy if need be just to fix that situation. So I was just like,
You're willing to pay for therapy.
honestly, I was willing to pay for therapy.
Yo.
That's how much I wanted this man to stay in my life. Like, I'm not even.
You're
And then-
a giver, though. That's nice.
I am
That's
like
nice.
too much. And the thing with me is that I really wanted this relationship. I really wanted this relationship to work. And I remember when I was like the whole entire breakup, it did me a good one. And my therapist asked me, do you miss the boy? Or do you miss the feeling that
Feeling-
came with the boy?
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
sat there and I was like, I just want to go home now. I think we're done. Your money for the day is over. Me, I want to go
On
home
overdue.
now. But now thinking about it, I'm just like, I was just really codependent on this man. Like everything, the thing with me is, which is why I just cut off relationships for some time. I get into relationships and I lose myself in them. Like everything about me revolves around the boy, and everything around me revolves around making the boy happy. And if your schedule is X, is fine. We're gonna take X. Like it's like when you have like some sort of being left trauma issues, you really cling.
Yeah.
Like
You
you
do.
cling. Like your friends become the whole sole reason as to why you exist. And when you cling, you also don't have boundaries, because are you going to have boundaries with someone you're trying to keep in your life?
Yeah.
If it means no boundaries to keep them, adios.
Yeah.
I'm gonna adios my boundaries and keep you in my life.
Yeah.
So for me, I think up until this year, I haven't had like the most healthiest relationships with people. And the ones I have right now are so concrete, because it's just it's funny how my inner child has just sat. Like I'm calm. I don't have worries of like the friends I have right now. I don't think it ever clicks me. They'll walk away.
Yeah.
But now very recently I lost not really lost, but like the dynamics of our friendship shifted with this babe.
Okay.
And it was so difficult for me. But how I handled it made me call myself for an ice cream meeting and be like, Mbona tuli? Like, why do we not feel like an entire part of our hearts have been taken
Shattered.
away?
Yeah.
Because I've gotten to a point where ukienda, imagine is sawa, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it will ever be my fault. Like I told myself, she has her own reasons. She doesn't need to explain herself to me.
Yeah.
And that's great. So at least for me, I'm just like, at least right now, people are not my entire
Can I
sole
just-
reason of existence. Yay.
You is me. Me is you.
Me is you.
You is me. Me is you.
Do you know,
Because-
I found that babes who suffer from father wounds more or less have same
the same thing.
tendencies.
Same tendency.
Same
tendencies.
tendencies. Like
Yeah.
these.
Like Anna kwa Anna.
Twinning.
A week.
It's when normally if you guys don't watch it, we call it trauma bonding.
Yeah.
But most times I'm interacted with girls who struggle with like father wounds.
Father wounds.
Yeah.
Like I see them like, are you my twin? Are you my sister? What are
twin
you?
flaming.
I know you. You know me.
Do you know me? Yeah.
Like a week before I broke up with the guy.
The guy.
The guy.
The good one or the bad one?
The bad one.
Okay. The
Oh,
toxic
okay.
one,
The
rather.
toxic guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why was I going to the counseling center? Can I book a couples therapy session?
Okay, 3 weeks is
Couples
a stretch.
therapy.
Mine was 11
Couples
months.
therapy. Wow.
Mine
wow.
was 11
But you know, 3
months.
weeks in Nairobi relationships, nika. Ania.
Okay. You know, my friends laugh at me for it being 11 months. 3 weeks.
Yo.
3 weeks.
11 months in the
11 months in a situationship. I mean, call me whatever it is you want to call me.
delusional.
Yay. No, but that one she's dead. That one, we buried her. In fact, her burial was like a couple of months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys think you struggled with unhealthy coping mechanisms? Like to deal with the amount of trauma we went through?
Do I struggle with unhealthy?
Let me just go
Unhealthy,
first as I
unhealthy.
hope you guys think. Of course, there's always unhealthy before healthy.
Healthy, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was really young, considering that I'm not gonna get into the whole story vizuri, but I went through like intense trauma for like a proper 10, 11 years. So by the time I was opening up about it, it's like 13 years later.
Yeah.
So this whole time, a babe who's very young was dealing with all these things all by herself.
Small girl,
So
big
that's how I began
problems.
self-harming. That's how I began. I mean, I had mad suicide ideation, but I think because the thought of death was better than the thought of what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it just served more so less than the thought of being here to deal with everything that was going on. So other than that, I think how I also related in friendships and also how I also related with men was a bit sketchy. It was like a lot. It was like mad. And I think a lot of times there's always shame. Like when I sit down sometimes, I feel some sort of shame towards the ways I probably coped with the trauma I was going through.
Yeah.
But I've watched myself like
Grow.
pace up. I've
Yeah.
watched myself move from self-harm to rubber bands. I've
Hey.
watched myself move from rubber bands to completely not wanting to hurt myself, but just sit down with myself and tell myself, you had no fault in this, by the way, and it's okay. Feel everything you want to feel. I have watched myself deal with myself in very crazy ways to just being very tender and okay, and just talking to myself with a lot of grace. I saw my progress. There's this progress app, and I saw my progress the other day, and I've been like 10 months self-harm free, and I was like, that's a go-getter. Like,
That's
it's not
nice.
even crossed my mind, it's not even crossed my head. It's just been something I have been moving forward to. But now I think one of my most craziest, very most interesting healthy coping mechanisms is my community. Like, I have
And
community.
strong
I have
base.
community that will come collect me in the cat house. And if they can't collect me, they'll just sit with me till I'm able to collect myself. Then they'll collect me. And also therapy. For me, therapy has been
Did work.
so helpful. Like, you
Important.
unpack something, you get over it, and I'm like, why have I been? Why
Mbona?
have I been bebaing you this
Why?
whole time?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to. I'd be a hypocrite to sit here and say every day is a good day. I mean, I have days I
Definitely.
wake up and I'm like, what? Do I want to be on this planet, really? I'm just like, I call myself and I'm like, today is one of those days. Like, I have days where I just go down. Because I think unpacking trauma is not always like a snap of a finger thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have good days and bad days, but I think the beauty of it is I have learned to deal with the bad days in a healthy way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Miss Mani Mimi.
Tumekuangalia tu sisi wote.
I feel like an unhealthy way I used to deal with my shit was I never used to like staying at home. And nilikuwa na hepa. I go to my friends and I didn't even tell my mom. I live like a normal person. Unajua au kijana narudi. But hawanioni. So I used to chuck home and just go and stay at a friend's place. And you know, that's so unhealthy because utaanza kutafutwa hapo polisi, oh, you know, my son is missing. Oh. And I don't know, I realized it's the place definitely does, the environment does definitely contribute to
Contributes
the
to the
trauma,
trauma,
and
yeah.
everything. But it also depends on you if you let it affect you, you know.
Correct.
So I feel like that's how I'm dealing with it right now.
Because
So-
it's an
'cause
ongoing
it's
process.
an ongoing process, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Also, I used to struggle with alcohol. I used to.
Tuko wengi. Tuko wengi.
I found it wasn't really a coping mechanism.
Nakunywa beyond
Okay, no,
your limit,
it
ndo
was.
uzime, ndo usiamke, ndo uzime.
I enjoyed. Unajua ile unakunywa pombe hadi ni kama maji sasa.
Yeah.
Miss Cap.
Yeah,
Knockout too.
Yo,
Knockout.
It's the pit. I used to deal with that on a kila siku shot more than lazima.
Sure.
Every day when I wake up, I used to have one shot.
Yani watu wanaamka kuoga unaamka shot.
Mi naamka kupiga shots.
Wow.
So it was very unhealthy. But luckily, I'd definitely say I haven't stopped drinking, but I've reduced
Like,
my...
it's no longer
it's no longer like a go-to, you know, ati umenikasirisha acha
Twende
niende nikunywe. Hapana.
I think it's
No.
how with therapist says everything is a good coping mechanism. It just depends
with
to
how
what extent.
Yeah, you
Like,
deal
if
with
it becomes your dependence, then there's a problem somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Zozo.
My unhealthy coping mechanism. Well. I don't know if it's unhealthy.
That's how it
Well,
always
you can
starts.
tell us we see. We can tell us we did for you. It's okay.
Well. There was a time. Okay, I don't know if I don't know if I really struggled with alcohol because I sometimes do drink.
How sometimes is sometimes.
Sometimes.
If it's like twice every 2 weeks.
Nah.
Hey,
Okay.
that's how
It's
you
like-
drink.
Madron, I've not been on alcohol for months now.
Once every 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Nice. Damn,
Once
you guys are way better. But like,
Once every 7 weeks. Because like how I've spaced it out, like in my like a semester, we have 14 weeks. So
Yeah.
after mid semesters,
oh, wow, okay.
you drink. After
Yeah.
NSEMs,
Some
you
you
drink.
drink.
But lately I didn't drink during NSEM, so
Hey,
I guess
you're doing
I'm
nice.
putting up
Yeah.
Raising the bar.
Yeah, raising the bar. Because I also feel like a little bit scared because my dad was also like
A drunkard.
alcoholic.
Yeah.
So I personally, there was something my mom told me. She's like, I don't want you to turn out like your father.
Yeah.
And that,
It like it's Takodora's box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's
a
just
trigger.
pinned in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and because I'm the only child, well,
Yeah. Ooh.
I can't
you
turn out.
can.
There's no
Yeah.
option.
There's very much up capability.
Yeah, but I realized there was a time when I used to drink once in a while. I'd overdo. Like, it's like I'm intentionally drinking
Drinking to-
Nile
nizame.
yenye
Like-
limit ni wewe.
Yeah.
Limit is you.
The sky got nothing
There's
on
an
me.
episode, there's no limit here.
Yeah. And I just go.
Kata.
Yeah.
Kata.
So I think during those moments, maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
But thankfully, I've grown past that. Another thing that came to mind was, there was a time, because currently I'm a Christian. I believe in God. But there was one time I was a full-blown atheist, yo. Like,
I mean, pain has a way of making you feel like Jesus isn't there.
Doesn't exist.
Well,
Zero.
let me tell you, I'd be in the sitting room with my mom, and I'm like, Mom, why do you worship a God who does nothing for you?
You actually question.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just like, why do you worship a God that lets all these things happen?
Like,
And I mean, you want to sit there because I used to hate this phrase. Everyone would tell me. People that visit me in the office, in the hospital.
Yeah.
This is post and disclaimer, I say attempt or whatever. I mean, no. You get it. If you get it, get it. If you don't get it, don't get it. And then everyone is just telling me, you're going through all these things so that you can help someone else, and God has allowed it. I'm just like, okay, so there's 1,000 people in this world,
But
I
God
am the
chose
chosen
me.
scapegoat. I
And
mean,
the-
like me, I was done.
The
I was
chosen
like,
warrior. You're
was
the
like,
warrior
for
of
real, the
God.
warrior of God. Eh?
Strong soldiers.
Strong soldiers, pale.
I'm not gonna be that.
No,
I'm not gonna be that.
No,
Like,
no.
there were days I'd be like, Mom, with the kind of example that you're giving, like, because she's like a staunch Christian, I'm not seeing any example as to why I should be a Christian based off your life.
Your life.
Like, honestly, it feels like being a Christian is just a certification of misery for life.
Can I shock you though?
Whoa.
Can I shock you
Yes.
though? Let me tell you something. Up until now, and like now started working with God, I realized in as much as my mom went through it all, she remained smiley and strong
Yeah.
because of
For
her
real.
God.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think if her God was removed from the picture, she'd still stay. Because I remember when I started working with God, I asked my mom, yani siri, imekuwa tu hapa, but uliamua
this
tu
time.
kunishow. Because it's like, God gives some unexplainable peace. Like, you can't
Yeah.
explain it, but it's just there.
It's there. Because even there was a time when things happened and I was struggling even in terms of forgiveness with my father.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, like,
That's good for you.
The 6-year-old talking.
Me personally, I'm just like, iyo mnipe time. Iyo mnipe time.
there's one time she'd be like, Zoe, it all starts with like a choice you've made. Because you just need to, it doesn't feel like you've forgiven him.
Yeah.
The days I'd be like, I'm so pissed right now. I want to cuss him out. But then she reminds me, Zoe, you made that prayer. You said, let it go.
Let it
and
go.
let God. Because there's some things, honestly, it reminded me. My mom told me this. Some things you can't forgive. It's only when you allow God to help you forgive that you can forgive.
Because in
Yeah.
your human nature, you cannot.
You can't. So like I'd ask God most of the times when I felt like I was slipping back into that anger, that hatred.
Yeah.
God help me forgive. Help me forgive this man. And indeed, I think I am at a good point per se, because it's intentional. You just can't forgive someone like in a day and say, I've forgiven them. No. You have to remind yourself every day that you've chosen to forgive and to forgive this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, basically there was a time my faith with God was just woo.
Going down.
But then there's a way God always pulled me back. Like,
Yeah.
come
But
here,
my mom
baby.
normally says, if God has marked you, you have been marked.
You
Yeah,
have
and there's
definitely.
nothing you can do about it.
Definitely.
For real.
All right. Final, most very important question to the people watching. How would you advise people to be there and show up for their loved ones who are going through trauma? In one sentence, before the guys behind these cameras slaying me to death. Yeah, so how would you advise people watching to show up for people in their lives or they know that are going through trauma?
just listen to them.
Hmm.
Like, sometimes all they need is a listening ear and somebody
Yeah.
to talk to, because they feel like they can't be heard. They can't talk to their parents because, well, sometimes their parents are the ones who are causing them this trauma.
Yeah.
But they just need someone to hear them, someone to hug them, someone to let them know that everything will be okay. In as much as you feel like it's not gonna be okay, you'll be fine. Because looking back at it, you see the moments that you thought you wouldn't overcome. Later on, you'll be like, wow, and I survived that.
Ni mimi kweli.
Maybe.
That's so true.
Yeah, you look back and you're like, wow,
the
surely.
beauty of survival.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking back, it's with those people that were there for you. That's like your pillar. That's your fuel. So just be there for this person and listen to them, hug them, wipe their tears. Yeah, that's all.
Buona Chris.
Me, this is something I'm starting to work on myself, me personally. So I'd advise, if you're helping someone to go who's going through some form of childhood trauma or any trauma, just tell them that they are not a before picture. And that's so deep in a sense that, have you ever taken a picture of yourself right now? Like, let's say you 10 years ago, and then you're uko hivi.
Yeah. I look like I was collected somewhere.
Right now, you won't like it. Like,
Yeah.
then maybe you did.
Then it made sense. In fact, I was everything. Unatuma kwa subgroup.
Ulikuwa 10 out of 10,
Yeah.
So like, you're not a before picture in the sense that you shouldn't like you shouldn't like yourself after the progress. Like yourself during the progress, even when you've not yet progressed. So yeah, you're not a before picture. Yeah.
Deep.
Guys.
All right. As I always say, as we always preach on this podcast, patience, grace. Patience and grace is very, very important for
Yeah.
anyone you might know in your life that is going through trauma. But also, it is not your work to fix. Be there, but it is not your work to fix.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That being said, we really hope that this episode was as therapeutic and as wholesome as it felt to all of us here. Easy maswali though, but
Zilikuwa.
yeah, we hope that you find some sort of, introspective questions to also think and ponder with yourself. More than less, we just pray that you continue to walk on your journey of healing. You continue to reach the levels of healing that you have envisioned for yourself.
Yeah.
But other than that, we love you guys so much. So glad you guys can make it on set today.
Thank
This was a
you
really
for
great
hosting
episode.
us.
So I'd let
Yeah.
you guys say your Instas and then we wrap it up.
Okay. Ni camera 7, 1, 2.
Sijui ni gani kati tu ya hizo mbili zenye ziko hapo mbele.
You can find me on IG. I'm not actually on many platforms. I'm only on WhatsApp and IG. So you can find me on IG at tr.ezo.
Okay.
Also, remember, Fancied Story
Stories.
Network. Hapo chini, yeah.
Yes. So we'll flag you guys up for Chini. Zoe.
Um,
I'll also insert Zoe's, if that's okay with you. I can insert the YouTube video. Okay.
definitely.
Perfect.
So my Instagram handle is _.phyre, fire, because people say pire. Pire.
The blog. You better shout the blog.
Oh yes. Also, I have a blog on WordPress, Zoe Articles blog, and also my podcast.
Oh yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yankin Paul.
Paul,
Yeah.
It's called Yanking Apal.
No.
Paul.
Her and Akina Paul. Paul is her
Oh,
other.
oh,
my
okay.
co-host.
Friends
Ah,
who's
okay,
the co-host.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you and
So we
Kina
have a
Paul.
podcast. It's also on Instagram,
Nice,
P3T
nice,
podcast.
nice.
Yay.
So-
This is for all the Christian babes out there. You better plug in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
you can also find me on Facebook.
hey,
Yeah,
Jamani, how old are you
guys,
again?
I have one
Facebook.
Allah.
friends
Facebook.
on Facebook.
Kwani ni serious like
Facebook
that?
friends. Wow,
Yes,
wow, wow.
1.8. I'm so proud.
Leave
guys.
me and my young
And I'm
self.
on 20. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, guys, I hope you guys have an amazing week, day, depending on when you listen to this.
Yeah.
But other than that, tufunge mwaka, tumalize mwaka. You guys have been a blessing. Love and light. Bye-bye.